Forehand goes big, backhand goes big. Forehand goes big, backhand goes big. I think what I see now, and I think it's just getting more and more physical, and I think also everybody practices that way.
Roger Federer told us exactly how this would go. Not with a dramatic press conference, not with a warning label, but in the quiet way legends say things when they already know they're right. He kept coming back to the same idea in interviews over the years, that the game was slowly losing the thing that made it special, the touch, the variety. The feeling that two players could walk onto the same court with completely different tools and both have a real chance to win. And almost nobody took it seriously. Because when he said it, tennis looked healthy, it looked spectacular, it still does, but look a little closer, and you start to see what he was actually pointing at. Let me be clear about what this is not. This isn't one of those tennis is dead, everything was better in the past rants. The level today is absurd. The athletes are stronger, faster, and more complete than any generation before them. That's not the problem. The problem is something quieter, and it's exactly what Federer was hinting at. Tennis didn't get worse, it got narrower. Think about the era he came from. You had guys serving and volleying their way through Wimbledon, sneaking to the net on almost every point, living and dying by their hands. You had heavy topspin grinders who wanted nothing to do with the net and just wore you down from the baseline. You had counterpunchers, shot makers, one-handed backhands slicing and driving, big servers with nothing else, and artists with no serve at all. Every match was a clash of styles. You didn't just ask who was better, you asked whose game beat whose. And that question is basically gone now. So what actually happened? Why did the styles collapse into one? Watch a top match today and count how many times someone commits to the net for the whole point. You'll be waiting a while. The full-time serve and volley player is essentially extinct. Now look at the backhands. The one-handed backhand, the shot Federer built his entire identity around, has almost disappeared at the top of the game. You can name the guys who still use it on one hand: a Tsitsipas, a Musetti, a Dimitrov, and people talk about them like they're rare artifacts, because they are. Everybody else hits two hands, drives through both wings, moves like a sprinter, and defends like their life depends on it. The template has been set. Be a supreme athlete, hit heavy off both sides, and never, ever have an obvious weakness. And that's where the story usually stops. Everyone blames the equipment. Everyone blames the rackets, the strings, the slower conditions, but I don't think that's the real answer. Because those things only explain how it became possible to play this way. They don't explain why every kid on the planet now chooses to. Here's the thing nobody wants to say. The artistry didn't die because players lost the ability to do it. It died because doing it stopped winning. And a huge part of that is something the old game simply didn't have: sports science. Go back a couple of decades and tactics were basically instinct. You played your game, you felt out your opponent, and you trusted your gut in the big moments. Now the entire sport has been dissected. Every pattern, every shot selection, every court position has been measured, tracked, and turned into a percentage. Coaches and players don't guess anymore. They know exactly which plays win the most points over a long enough sample, and which ones just look good. And when you know the numbers, you stop gambling. Risk-taking becomes calculated instead of instinctive, and tactics get rigid because there's a spreadsheet somewhere telling you the flashy option is a slow way to lose. But here's the part that really locks it in, and almost nobody talks about it. The scoring system in tennis actively punishes risk. Think about how the game is actually counted. You don't get rewarded for the margin of your win. Blowing someone off the court in a service game counts for exactly the same as scraping through deuce after deuce. The score resets every single game. All that dominance, all that flair, it doesn't carry over. There's no bonus for beauty. Winning a game with 3 jaw-dropping winners counts exactly the same as grinding it out with safe, boring rally balls. It's one game on the board either way. So think about what a high-risk, high-variety style actually buys you. It wins you a few more spectacular points, sure, but it also hands over a few more errors. And here's the trap. Those spectacular points earn you nothing extra, while the errors can cost you the whole game. So the flair is basically free entertainment for the crowd, and the mistakes are the only part that moves the scoreboard. Over hundreds of points, the safe player quietly comes out ahead. Consistency compounds, brilliance doesn't. And once players and their teams truly understood that, the incentive was obvious. Cut the variance, play the percentages, grind, follow the logic. If you're a young player trying to make it, you don't develop the shot that looks beautiful. You develop the shot that gives you the best chance of holding serve and breaking back. And in modern tennis, that answer is almost always the same. Get bigger, get fitter, flatten out your ground strokes, cover the court like a defender, and pick your moment to attack from the baseline. The one-hander is gorgeous, but it's more vulnerable to high balls and pace. The serve and volley is thrilling, but against these returners and these passing shots, it's a coin flip. So players don't choose variety, because variety is a competitive handicap. The optimal path is the narrow one. Now here's the part that actually makes Federer's warning land. This didn't just change how the pros play, it changed how the next generation is being built. When one single blueprint wins everything, that blueprint becomes the only thing academies teach. Kids aren't developed as shot makers first anymore. They're developed as athletes first, ball strikers second, and everything else a distant third. The touch, the net instincts, the willingness to try something weird under pressure, those aren't trained out on purpose. They just never get trained in. And that's the difference between a phase and a real ending. A phase reverses when the trend changes, but you can't bring back a style that nobody's even being taught anymore. The pipeline that used to produce those players quietly closed, and almost no one noticed it happening. So was Federer just being nostalgic for his own era? I don't think so. I think he saw the mechanism. He saw that once the incentives all point one direction, the game doesn't slowly drift, it locks in, and it becomes self-erasing. But let's be honest, because there's another side to this, and pretending there isn't would be dishonest. Today's tennis is breathtaking. The defense is impossible. Players get to balls that should be clean winners and somehow flip the point. The rallies are longer, the athleticism is off the charts, and the physical drama of two elite movers refusing to miss is genuinely thrilling to watch. A huge part of the audience loves exactly this. So maybe the thing Federer mourned and the thing modern fans fell in love with are two sides of the same coin. You can't have this level of raw completeness and also have wild one-dimensional characters running around. The same evolution that killed the variety is the one that raised the floor. Every trade has a cost. And look at the exceptions, because they prove the whole point. When a player does show up with real variety, someone like Bublik, who serves and volleys, chips and slices, throws in drop shots and trick shots and changes the texture of a match on a whim, people lose their minds over it. He's treated as a breath of fresh air. But stop and ask yourself why that feels so special. It feels special because it's rare. If half the tour played with that imagination, we wouldn't be calling it magic, we'd be calling it Tuesday. The fascination is the symptom. It's the crowd reacting to something the game used to have all the time. So did Federer see the end of tennis? No. Tennis is bigger and healthier by the numbers than it's ever been. But he did see the end of a certain kind of tennis. The kind where the style was the story, where you tuned in not just to see who won, but to see two completely different ways of playing collide and find out which one survived. That version is mostly gone, and the honest truth is it probably isn't coming back on its own, because the whole system is now pointed somewhere else. That's what makes his warning age so strangely. He wasn't complaining. He was describing a machine that hadn't finished running yet. And now we're living in the result. So let me hand it to you. Do you think Federer was right? Would you actually want the old chaos back, with all its ugly matches and lopsided mismatches? Or is the polished, complete athletic game we have now simply better, even if it all looks a little more the same? Because I genuinely go back and forth on this one, and I don't think there's a clean answer. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this kind of deeper tennis breakdown, do me a favor and hit subscribe so you'll know the second the next one goes up. Until then, have a great one, and I'll see you in the next video.